Okay, I've had some huge issues with my car over the last few days, and that has taken all of my time, so that has caused some huge delays on my new videos on my channel. But don't worry, I will be having some very interesting new content on my channel over the upcoming days, so stay tuned. If you want to influence my content, like give me some advice or ideas for these upcoming topics that I mentioned on this video, or if you want me to test something specific, then feel free and drop a comment down below this video, or maybe send me a message on my Facebook page, or join my Patreon, Discord, whatever you want to use. But anyways, so first and foremost, here's the LGA 1700 bracket, which I already mentioned briefly on my previous videos. So we already know that the stock clamping mechanism of the LGA 1700 socket, it bends the CPU by quite a bit. So there's way too much mounting pressure on this side of the CPU socket, and it makes the CPU IHS concave. So sorry, I always mixed concave and convex on my previous videos. Concave means that the center is lower than the outside edges. So like for example the CPU IHS, all of the Alder Lake CPUs in this case, and many of the CPU coolers, like for example my AlphaCool water block, those are often convex intentionally. So they have a little bit taller base on the center than the outside edges. And we already saw that many times on my earlier videos when I showed you the mounting pressure or the contact or the thermal paste spread. The center always had very good contact compared to the outside edges. So I still haven't lapped the AlphaCool water block, but I will be doing it later. So it should help the temperatures by quite a bit. Now Australian overclocker called Kada, so Daryl, he created this very fancy plastic bracket for the LGA 1700 socket, and he sent me the 3D print model, and I sent it to Jokot, with whom I benched the 3D Mark TimeSpy Extreme two-way SLI world record back in October. So huge thanks both to Kada and Jokot. I finally have this plastic LGA 1700 socket in my hands, and it should have Kada OC labeled over here. So this one should keep the CPU in place, so the CPU will not come off the socket when we remove the cooling solution. So it could be an air cooler or a water block or LN2 container, and it should also apply some minor pressure on the CPU socket pins that should help with the overall contact quality and the overall function, because the CPU socket pins, they are technically small springs, and if you don't have high enough pressure on those pins, the system will not function properly. So you need some pressure on those socket pins for the system to function normally. So I think this should work just fine. So we'll test this one on the next video. Now, as the 12600KF, which I purchased some time ago, as it wasn't very good. It only did 5.2 GHz in Cinebench R20 and so on, and not so well on LN2. I purchased some more 6-core Alder Lake CPUs. So here's a brand new 12600K, so K model this time. I'm hoping to find a decent enough 6-core model among the Alder Lake CPU lineup, as I really want to put out some competitive scores in the 6-core and 10-core category. So let's hope that this would be better. I think it should be quite an easy job. Many CPUs should do a lot better than 5.2 GHz in Cinebench R20, just the water cooling. But this will be tested very soon as well, so stay tuned for that. And as non-K overclocking is now the real thing, it's on everyone's lips, I purchased a Core i3 12300 with the help of Solitan from our IO Tech Finnish Tech Media Site forum. So huge thanks to Solitan once again for helping me out. This is the fastest quad-core CPU on the planet right now. You also have the 12100F as an option, but the 12300 should have one notch higher multiplier that should help you out by quite a bit, because we can only overclock the base clock and the higher the multiplier is that you can use, the easier the overall overclocking procedure will be as well. So this one will be coming out very, very soon. I just received the non-K BIOS for the Z690 Dark Kingpin. I really want to test this CPU as well as the G7400, so the Pentium Alder Lake CPU. That's the fastest dual-core CPU on the planet right now. So it just destroyed the 7350K. And this CPU as well as the 12100F just destroyed the top scores made with the 5300G Zamin Ryzen CPU, which I also purchased very recently. So we'll be testing that out very, very soon. I'm still looking for the Pentium G7400. It still hasn't arrived in retail stores, but I think it should come out to the stores very, very soon as well. So hoping to get that very, very soon. So stay tuned for that as well. Then I already showed this on my YouTube channel's community page. So I actually purchased the AMD Ryzen 3 5300G. So this is the Zamin CPU, which was only released for the OEM machines. So this CPU actually never went retail. So it was actually quite hard to find from sites like eBay. They usually cost a lot. And this is a fully retail CPU, so this is not an engineering sample CPU. So this should be a lot better chip than the one Debao tested in one of his latest videos. So I will test this on the X570 Dark. The only real difference of the Zamin architecture compared to the retail Vermeer is that this architecture can reach much higher F-clock. And if you can reach much higher F-clock, it also means that you can run much higher memories. So you pretty much need a Zamin CPU to max out the memory kit you want to use and also the motherboard. So I still haven't tested that CPU. I think it should work just fine. So let's test it out very, very soon as well. Now, as I mentioned on my Call of Duty video, this is an M.2 heatsink. So this is a custom copper heatsink for M.2 NVMe 2280 length drives. So as I already mentioned, you shouldn't pay overly much for heatsink versions of different M.2 drives. This heatsink was made by Bartz, so the very same Polish guy whom I mentioned quite a few times on my channel. He makes this custom heatsink for M.2 drives, and I think it only costs like 13 euros. So I will be testing this out on my channel, comparing how warm the temperatures are without any heatsink when the M.2 drive is being stressed, and how good the temperatures are with this heatsink without any airflow at all, and some directed airflow, something like that. That's the idea right now. So I think this is very good. So 13 euros isn't bad at all, and you can recycle the heatsink from different drive to another. That's the very good thing about this whole heatsink. So you aren't tied to just some very specific M.2 drive. You can take this heatsink from the drive you wish to replace and install it to the new drive if they are the same length, pretty much. So very good, I think. And I also purchased these custom copper heatsinks for DDR5 sticks. So I really want to try the Corsair Hynix. So the Vengeance sticks that I've tested quite a lot on my channel, I really want to test them on LN2. And the hard part about running DDR5 on LN2 is the PMIC, so the power management components, or how they are called. So they stand out from the PCB at the center of the PCB like this. So you need to make a small cutout to the heatsink so that they fit. I think it was power management integrated circuit. So all of those power delivery components, they do stand out from the PCB. So the very standard copper heatsinks, which I already used on DDR4, they don't fit out of the box. But these heatsinks, they do also fit your normal DDR4 Samsung B-die based stick. So I think he replaced the standard DDR4 Samsung B-die heatsinks with these. So these are designed both for DDR5 and DDR4. But these were actually quite expensive from Barks. I think they cost like 70 euros. So 70 euros is quite a lot for just memory heatsinks, but his DDR3 copper heatsinks for DDR3 like power chips and LPDA based, I think they fit LPDA Hyper and maybe also BBSE. Those heatsinks, even as they cost quite a bit, they are very, very good. The DDR3 PSC heatsinks from Barks, they are probably the best DDR3 custom heatsinks that I ever tried. So they are definitely worth the money, and I hope that these are as well. Then that's pretty much it, I guess. And I also received some brand new thermal paste from Streetcom. I think that's how they are pronounced. So Streetcom TX13 thermal paste. So this is the new thermal paste, and they actually wanted to send me some samples for review. So if you are familiar with the open bench table from Streetcom, so it's usually shortened as OBT. I never tried the open bench table myself. I only saw it very briefly over at Jocot, but it seems that they are now jumping to the thermal paste market as well. So I will be testing this out probably against KPX, as I don't have like too much time to test all of the different thermal pastes. Once again, I will probably compare this against the Kimpin Cooling KPX on the Z490 Dark, Kimpin and 10900K. As we already know how KPX performed against like Cryonaut Extreme, Standard Cryonaut, GC Extreme, we should get a pretty rough idea how this performs if we only compare this against the Kimpin Cooling KPX. So stay tuned for that as well. It's pretty interesting. And I also have tons of different very ghetto and dodgy thermal pastes from AliExpress. So I need to make a very large like AliExpress thermal paste roundup, because I really wanted to see like what can you find from the depths of those weird Chinese websites like AliExpress. So I actually purchased tons of different like thermal pastes with very high paper values, so very high thermal conductivity ratings and so on. And I will test those later against KPX or similar thermal paste. So that will be coming out later on my channel, so stay tuned for that. I also purchased, but this I won't be reviewing, but I purchased this very nice multimeter. So if you are fans of EEV blog YouTube channel, then you should know what kind of multimeter this is. So this is the Ryzen BM786 EEV block edition. So the good thing about this multimeter is that this can actually do capacitance up to 10,000 microfarad, and this is pretty much fluke-like quality for a very low price. So with these Probe Master test leads, this whole pack cost me only like 180 to 190 euros, and I think a meter like Fluke 177 costs around like 400 to 500 euros. So if you really want like a very good multimeter for not too high price, I think this is definitely a very good option. But as I'm not any kind of expert in electronics, I will not be making any video of this multimeter. So if you want to learn more about this multimeter, check out EEV blog, the YouTube channel, and he should have some content over there about this meter and some of his other multimeter models as well. So those are pretty much it. And I also have some legacy CPUs coming in. I also purchased some AMD Phenom CPUs, like dual cores, and I still need to find some quad cores, as I want to try some core unlocking. So with the dual core Phenoms, I want to try 3-core category benching, so you can unlock up to 1 or 2 extra cores on the dual core Phenom. So you can actually make a dual core Phenom a quad core CPU or a triple core CPU. So I want to compete in the triple core category by unlocking a 3rd core on those dual core Phenoms. I still have a Gigabyte UD7 motherboard for the AM3 socket, so it should be the 890FX UD7. So it's apparently the best motherboard for these old AMD CPUs. So I have those coming in, and some 775 CPUs as well. And recently I also purchased this Gigabyte X79 UD7 motherboard. This was actually originally from Taobao once again. And huge thanks to Zamin from Azerbaijan for helping me out with getting this motherboard. So Buildzoid actually already covered this specific motherboard on his YouTube channel. So I think I will just cover this motherboard like briefly myself, talk about the things why I wanted to try this motherboard. I actually looked for this motherboard quite a lot back in 2012 and 2013. I started this whole hobby with the Rampage 4 Extreme. So my whole story about getting into this hobby is pretty similar to what Buildzoid has. So I started this whole hobby properly with the Rampage 4 Extreme motherboard, which was an X79 motherboard from Asus. So the UD7 is good because it only has one memory slot per channel, and it has these very fancy buttons to control the base clock and the CPU multiplier. But sadly, there's already one bent pin in the socket over here. I might try to do a video about bending or realigning that particular CPU pin, but it's quite difficult to film footage about so small objects, but I'll see what I can do. So I got this motherboard with this Xeon CPU, but I might just sell this CPU. So this is Xeon E5 1650. So it's only about testing that does this motherboard work normally and so on. So there's that, and with the board I also got some E8400 CPUs. So these are pretty good batch, I think, and I want to test them. If they are good, I might try them on LN2. I got two of those, 2 binned E8400 CPUs, and then also some Dominator GT 2000 Cas8 sticks. So these might be quite average. This is a triple kit of Dominator GT 2000 Cas8. I'll test them individually on Rampage Extreme and see what voltage do they require for 2000 675 20 command rate 1 timing. So the very common binning profile I've used for Elpida Hyper memory sticks. And the last one of the whole lot is some more DDR4 action. Once again, these are memory sticks loaned to me by Alexi from our very same forum. So they are apparently the very best DDR4 sticks that ever existed. So these are the G-Skill Trident Z Royal 4800 Cas17 sticks. So these are single-sided Samsung B-die, and they have a stock voltage of 1.6 volts. So that's a very high stock voltage. But timing table is 17, 19, 19, 39. So Alexi actually sent these sticks for me to remove the standard heatsink. So he wants to try water cooling memory sticks, and it's actually quite risky to remove the stock heatsinks from memory sticks. You can actually damage, permanently kill the memory stick in question when you remove the heatsinks, and that's extremely dangerous if you try to remove the stock heatsinks of Dominator GT memory modules. These are known to be the hardest memory sticks to remove the heatsink design from. The only safe way to remove the heatsink from this particular kit is by using LN2, so liquid nitrogen. You cannot remove the heatsink design from this particular kit safely by using hot air. It's very likely that you are going to rip off some of the memory ICs by doing it. And it's actually quite easy to remove memory heatsinks when you use LN2. You just dip the memory stick in LN2 so that it freezes completely, and usually the memory heatsinks come off very, very easily. I have many dead GDX2 and Dominator GT 2000 Cas7 sticks laying around on my table. I want to remove the heatsink design from all of those sticks, and I want to see if I could repair some of the sticks, because usually if memory stick dies, it doesn't mean that the whole stick is completely broken. It could be that only one of the 16 memory chips that are present on the PCB are dead. So I could see which of the memory ICs could actually be alive, and then I could rebuild a working Elpida Hyper-based memory stick. So it's possible that you can actually fault find the damaged ICs. So if, for example, if this stick has 16 memory ICs, it's possible that if this was seemingly dead, it's possible that only 2 of the 16 memory ICs are actually dead. and the remaining 14 are like fully working. These kind of memory sticks, they are very rare. Even dead memory sticks, they are usually quite valuable. People are actually like trying to find even dead LP to hyper-based memories, like especially dominated GT LP to hyper-based memories, because these are known to be the very best LP to hyper-based DDR3 sticks that ever existed. So I really want to see, like, could it work out? It's quite an exotic project, but I want to see if I could do it. It definitely requires some skill and very good soldering gear, but I think it's definitely possible. But we will start by removing the heat sinks. I will not try the heatsink removal method with these Trident Z sticks first, because those are still pretty valuable. I will use some disposable sticks first, and if the heatsinks come off very easily, then I will do all of the remaining sticks. So stay tuned for that as well. I will be getting LN2 quite in the very near future, so stay tuned. So those are pretty much the ideas that are coming on my channel, like very soon over the upcoming days. And also, yes, Sergey, you have already mentioned it many times, I will be doing Windows XP installation guide for these latest platforms like the Z690, Z590 and so on. So don't worry, I will be making an XP installation video as well. But those are pretty much the ideas that are coming on my channel. And if you want to have an effect on my content, like give me ideas what to do and what I should be trying, I'm very willing to hear that out from you guys. But yeah, a short video this time. Hopefully you like to see it, and thanks for watching, and I will see you very soon.